Welcome back to WJZ at 9. Mary Powers is the third of 5 most interesting people K2 and I have met during the 3 years of WJZ at 9. Last week we revisited places. This week we're revisiting people. Here's the long and short of it. Mary and I have known each other since the late 70s. We sat up in what was called Section 34 at Memorial Stadium. We were kids. I was 26, you were 24. It was a Friday night. We had been pre-gaming at a neighborhood bar near Memorial Stadium. When I say we, you and I and about 11 other people, we had a pretty good buzz going. We're at the stadium. They're playing the national anthem. And at the appropriate time, you went, "Oh!"
I don't think it was quite like that.
Well, how was it then?
It was like, "Oh!"
No, Mary was sitting behind me.
There's a different version.
I was witness to this. And while Bill Hagee turned around and looked, and you could see the light bulb go off over his head. And he said to all the folks at Section 34, Bill was the leader of this, he said, tomorrow night, which would have been a Saturday night, let's all do that.
Yes.
And we did.
Yes.
And the rest is history.
Yes.
And I tell people that, and they go, no. But it's an absolute fact. Mary,
Yes.
how are you?
I'm great. I'm doing really well.
You went on and had an incredibly successful career working with Merrill Lynch.
And others.
And others, but
Yes.
you were in the stock business for years. But back when we were kids, you didn't have responsibilities. You didn't have kids. How many baseball games do you think you went to a year back then?
79, I think I only missed 4 or 5
Home games. I want you to think about that. We were always up there. That was what the legend of Section 34 became because of all of our attendance at games.
Yes.
And all of a sudden, you went, "Oh!"
The rest is history.
And the rest is history. Michael, give me a quote. Okay, I was just waiting for a time cue from Michael. Coming up next half hour, we're going to talk more about Mary and the O and what it's become. But I want you to think about it every time you hear it. Even Michael Phelps said in his mind, he always went O, standing there with a gold medal around his neck. We're going to throw it back to TV Hill. Oh!
Oh.
You know, Marty, I have to ask you, when did you grow up? You said back when you were kids. I don't think you've ever gotten out of the kid stage.
Hey, Steve, I'm growing older, but not up.
Roger, sir. Roger on that one. And good to see you, Mary. Great.
I welcome back again with Mary Powers, credited with, and I was a witness to it, being the first person to scream "Oh." And I want to thank you. When I first came to you about 10, 12 years ago and said, we got to tell this story. You're a very humble person. And you were like, man, I don't know. And you kind of put up with me wanting to put this on TV a lot. Yes. But it's a part of Baltimore sports history. But it didn't immediately happen. Tell them the story.
No. After I did it the first night, and the next night the section joined me. And even initially, only part of the section joined in. Eventually, the whole section did it. And it took, I think, that whole summer before it started spreading around the stadium.
It went from one section to another. Yes. We were in Section 34, and it started moving toward home plate. But what's a seminal part of this story is, though, this was 1979, and we went to the World Series against the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yes.
By that time, that's when the O took off.
Yes, and it was very loud during that World Series. And I remember initially they weren't really doing it any other place except Oriole games. And eventually it started to spread to other sporting events and other venues.
And now Coach Harv, you can excuse me, you can see him on the sideline. He hears they always take a shot of him because he's looking. He wants to hear the crowd that has followed the Ravens to Green Bay or wherever. But it took an entire season for that to catch on.
Yes. And I think because at the time it was very quiet during the national anthem. It was very respectful, and people didn't make any noise. So when that started, I think at first a lot of people were hesitant to join in. But eventually they realized this isn't political, this is nothing bad against our country, it's just the O.
And again, it helped that happen during the World Series. And during the World Series, they broadcast the national anthem. So now the world is hearing Baltimore go, "Oh!" And that's what really, let me hear it just one time.
Oh! Was that
nice,
better?
Yeah, much better. Mary, thanks a lot.
Oh, thank you.
You're a champ. You're a beautiful
Thank
person.
you.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you, Marty.
And the baseball season's getting ready to start. And how about them O's? Back to TV Hill.